Yeah.
Explain a little bit about that.
Yeah, the sashes that a monk or nuns has, we have certain lines into it. Some 5 lines, so 5-line sash, 7-line sash, and 9-line sash. The 5-line sash, so a monk and a nun cannot have more than 3 sashes. The 5-line is for when you go to do work, when you are, say, cleaning, when you are cleaning tables, other tables, and when you are doing ordinary household chore, you wear your 5-line sash. But when you are doing chanting, when you are performing certain ceremonies, ordinary ceremonies, when doing your morning lesson or evening lesson, you wear your 7-line sash. Also when you're listening to lectures, when you're doing your repentance, your prayers, you use the 7-line, and there's a 9-line. That's where you in the ancient days, when the monks went to the palace, they have to use the 9-line. They have to wear the 9-line sash. Very important occasions, very important ceremonies. Then you wear that. So there is some difference as to what situations would you wear what. So these are the answers, simple answers for that, you know. And also when you are, as a layman, I know that some of you have carry a sash too. And that is ordinary sash without lining on it. And when you are doing chanting at home, you should wear it. Don't just put it out. Of course, when you come to the temple, you bring it along and you put your sash on. But when you're at home, you still should wear it. When you are chanting, when you are reading sutras, when you are prostrating, you should also wear it. Now, the one behind it, the gong, whether you should wear it or not is up to you. But you should wear the sash. The sash is a technique of wearing that will make you remember that you have to follow those precepts. It reminds you that you should always follow. Whenever you put the sash on, you always remind yourself that you have followed the 5 precepts, or the 4 or the 3, depends on what you did in your ceremony. What's the vows that you have? Abstain from killing, abstain from sexual misconduct, abstain from intoxication, abstain from lying, abstain from stealing, you know. So you should always put on the sash, and that sash is to make you remember that you have obeyed those, you have to follow those precepts. Yeah?
How do you explain enlightenment in simple words?
Enlightenment. In very simple words, stay away from bad deeds, encourage and perform all good deeds, purify your mind. That's enlightenment. But of course there's more to it. How to purify your mind. Staying away from bad deeds is not difficult. You don't do killing, lying, stealing, you don't do all that bad deeds. And not doing bad deeds is just passive. You have to be actively encouraging good deeds, promoting good deeds. So you don't want to kill, you don't want to steal, you don't want to lie. To you it's okay, but you still have to encourage and do good deeds actively. And more than that, not enough. You have to purify your mind. Now that's the difficult part. You have to purify your mind to such a level that you're free from karmic energy, you're free from karma. In your next life, you're not going to go into reincarnation again. You're not going into the next round of suffering again. Do you know that we are all suffering in this life? Some people may not even know that you are suffering. We have all kinds of sufferings. Sufferings that we cannot avoid. Aging is one of the sufferings. Can you stop aging? No.
Yes.
Huh?
If you die.
Well, you die, then you cannot stop dying. Yeah, well, some people reply that, yeah, you can stop aging by cosmetics. Doing facial all the time. Then you can stop aging. Go to the facial shop and, relax and put on the makeup and, do all this kind of laser, put in the laser to laser out all those marks that you have in there. And you went there, you went to the facial, for facial makeup. Since you were 15, your mom brought you over there, and you've been doing that until you're 60, and then up to 70, I don't need it anymore. I can't change it. See all these wrinkles? Can you tighten up all your wrinkles? Now, some people did tighten up, take away some of the skin and tighten it up, and I was told that many movie stars did that. And then as they get older, they have disfiguration. In other words, it's not natural because some wrinkles grow over in here, it tightens this part. You couldn't realize them anymore. Oh, are you John? No, you don't look like John. Jeanette, oh no, you don't look like the same anymore. Because of this man-made tightening. Stops, one part you have a man-made tightening, the other part you have the natural wrinkles. So all these things conflict each other that you don't look the same anymore. You can't even realize yourself. Oh, do I look like that? You don't even realize that in the mirror that you're looking at, a different person. So you can stop aging if you died. But aging is a kind of suffering that you cannot stop. If aging is just concerned about your wrinkles, that's okay. But aging concerns many things. Your sickness, your health, and your ability, your response to actions. I found that once you get over 55, you're not the same in your interaction and your responsiveness to things. I was able to jump over fences when I was 30, 35. I couldn't jump over fences right now. I was able to walk much faster before. I couldn't. And when I was climbing mountains, I was able to walk very fast. I just did it yesterday. I went up to the Honeymoon Lake in Bowen Island. I went up, I was climbing, and I had my stick too, the climbing, the cane that I use, what do you call that? The climber stick. And we went through slopes and all that, and I was so clumsy in climbing. I remember when I was young, I was able to walk so fast, and I could do it without any efforts to it. But right now, it seems I almost lost my balance. I couldn't really respond fast. That's aging. And aging is not just with the physical. Aging with the mental too. You lost your memory. And what is more serious, you could get into dementia. You could get into you forget about you forgot even about your own families. So then your family members went to the hospital to visit you. Then you look at them, you couldn't even realize them. That's part of the aging. And then your children visit you, and they thought that, my mom used to recognize me before 2 years ago. Now it's been here for 3 years. They couldn't realize me anymore. So they lost the interest in visiting you because you are a plant. you don't have any feelings anymore. So more and more they reduce their visits to you because they couldn't talk to you. Every time when they come up to you, they look at you. How are you doing, Mom? How are you doing, Dad? He look at you and he couldn't respond. And you lost your interest in interaction. So you reduce your number of visits as time goes on. You ask any hospital staff in an OH home. Some of the children were so conscientious in visiting their moms and dad for the first 2-3 years. As time goes on, they reduced the number of visits. They were so busy, number one. Number two, Mom and Dad couldn't even realize me. What's the point of going visiting them? But there are people who continue to visit. I visit my mom in Hong Kong, and there are 2 or 3 daughters, very conscientious daughters, and have a lot of few very pious daughters. They were there every day feeding their mom and dad. Every lunch, and they wrote by rotation. Lunch, the daughter, and then the dinner, the son, and they did that for many, many years. There are people who are different, and there are people who never showed up. They show up in the first 2 years and didn't show up again. So aging is unavoidable. Sickness is unavoidable. There's a kind of suffering. Sickness is a kind of suffering, right? Anybody who won't get sick in here? No exception. It depends on what kind of sickness. So aging, sickness, and death. Anybody who doesn't have to die, who don't have to die, raise your hand. You don't have to die, you raise your hand. So everybody has to die, right? Aging, sickness, death, and actually living itself is a kind of suffering. But of course we need a lot of explanation on that. There's 4 suffering. And then what is the 5th? Insatiable desires and needs. You may not know about it. You have insatiable desire. You want to be healthy, you want your husband to love you, you want your wife to love you, but then it may not be true. Then you have your divorce, and then you want your son to love you all the time, your daughters, and they don't show up. You always have things that you cannot fulfill. And that's the kind of suffering too. Another suffering is what? Living with hated ones. You live with someone you hate for a number of years. He hates you and you hate him. And so for certain reason you couldn't decide whether you should have a divorce or not. And for the last 2-3 years, these 2-3 years were miserable to you. Finally you got a divorce. You get into another bondage, to another marriage. This time you thought you could be more clever, but then you went into the same problem again. That kind of sufferings. Terrible suffering. When you come to think of insatiable desire, sometimes every person's desire is not the same. I still remember I had a fellow student back in primary school. And when we were studying in primary school, we were studying in a very a primary school that nobody wants to go to. It's not famous, the name, and whenever people mention that primary school, nobody wants to go. And there's one, my fellow classmate, he always wanted to go into a famous school. He couldn't get into a famous school. He'd been trying to write examinations to get into. There are so many famous schools. There's a few famous schools in Hong Kong. I can name it to you. Queen's, La Salle, and many of this famous school. He wanted to get into it. He couldn't get into it. And he committed suicide. Because of this, he couldn't get into a good school just because of that. You see, there's so many reasons for people to take his own life. It could be for something so simple, so unimportant. But he treated it as very important. Somebody lost his job and he could take his own life because of losing a job. Or he lost his wife. Or because of his husband, of her husband, doing something she didn't like. You know, there was one case, I shouldn't mention this to you. I mean, have you finished eating? Otherwise you vomit out what you have taken in. There was a case in Hong Kong many years ago, I still remember, when they opened up the boundary of China for free trade. And a lot of these people in Hong Kong, they went to the north to do trading, and because they're always going up, it's easy to cross the boundary to go to the north to China, because China just opened up economically, and it received a lot of conscientious traders and businessmen, and a lot of people want to make a fortune in there, so they always crossed the border, went back and forth and went back and forth. And then there was this one guy, he went into do business, and he had a few female acquaintances, and he had some ladies he really liked, and he had some relationship with one or two ladies, and his wife discovered that his husband was unfaithful to her, and she kept on nagging, and you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do, that's not fair, that kind of thing. And the husband didn't listen. The wife one day went up to the 23rd floor with the two sons, committed suicide with the two sons. The whole family is gone. Even the children were dead. Because of this one guy who is unfaithful. So the culprits, who are the culprits? The two sons, they're not guilty. How come the wife brought the two sons up to the top of the roof, almost like the top of the 24th floor, it's the top of the 23rd floor, and jumped down, they're dead. And that's a very serious news at that time. So people going up to the north to do trading, they're always involved into affairs. And so we use that as a laughing stock for people. Or don't go to the north. you shouldn't be going to the north. So talking about suffering. So living with hated ones and departure with beloved ones. Your mom and dad passed away, you grieve over it, or your husband passed away, or your wife passed away, your sons, your daughters, your niece, your sisters, your brothers. You are so grief-stricken that is suffering. So many of this suffering, if you don't think life is suffering, you haven't lived your life. But of course there are some happy moments, short, temporary happy moments. We don't deny, we don't hate lives. Don't stay away and think that the Buddha wants us to hate life. No. It's a fact that life is suffering. But life is happy moments sometimes when you're happy. But finally, you have to die anyway. Plus, natural disasters, tsunami, earthquakes, wars, all kinds of genocides. A lot of this kind of suffering. And why do we have this kind of suffering? Because our karmic energy that we have created brought all these, not God. No. We created all this ourselves through many, many reasons, through many, many causes.